Hey timekeepers, welcome to the Idaho Mock Trial Competition. I'm Carrie Shuffler, the Director for Idaho's Mock Trial Program. Timekeepers like you play an important role in keeping a trial moving along. Remember, each team needs at least one person to serve as a timekeeper, who will work with the timekeeper from the other side during competition rounds. This orientation will cover the highlights from the timekeeping guide, which you can find by going to our website at idahomocktrial.org, clicking on the Materials button, and then the Guides tab. As your team's timekeeper, it's really important that you take the time to fully review the information found in the Team Timekeeper Guide before your regional competition. Let's start by going over the supplies you will need as a timekeeper. There are some things that you will need to provide and some things that we will provide for you. First, you'll need to provide 2 stopwatches. Please note that you need to use actual stopwatches and not your phone to keep time. And make sure you bring your stopwatches with you to your competition because there's no guarantee that our staff will have any extra stopwatches available to loan out. You'll also need to make sure you have pencils or pens to fill out your timekeeping sheets during the rounds. And finally, while it's not required, you should consider bringing a clipboard with you. You may end up sitting in a jury box where you don't have a solid surface to write on, and a clipboard will make your job a lot easier. Now, here's the supplies that we will provide for you. First, we'll give you a set of time cards when you arrive at your regional competition. And we'll also give you a time card use table that helps remind you when to hold up each time card. Make sure you keep your time cards and your time card use table if you move on to the state competition, since we will not provide new ones for you at state. And finally, we'll provide you with enough timekeeping sheets so that you have one for each round of competition. Before we go into the nuts and bolts of what will happen during a trial, a couple of quick notes about duties that are specific to each individual timekeeper. The language and procedures that you will use for these individual duties can be found on page 3 and 4 of the Timekeeper's Guide, and it's important that you take the time to review and fully understand these duties. The plaintiff timekeeper is responsible for calling the court to order, both at the beginning of the round and at other times when the judging panel leaves or enters the courtroom. And the defense timekeeper is responsible for collecting the sealed scoring packet from the presiding judge when the judging panel returns to the courtroom for the debrief, and delivering the sealed packet to the scorekeeper's room. As you'll read in the Timekeeper's Guide, it's critical that this packet is sealed before it's taken from the presiding judge. So if she or he tries to hand an unsealed packet to you as the defense timekeeper, it's your responsibility to hand it back to the presiding judge and ask him or her to seal it before you take it. Before each round starts, make sure you have your equipment and materials ready, that you introduce yourself to the other timekeeper, and that you find the right place to sit where your team has a clear view of you so they can see you when you hold your time cards up. This is usually at the end of the jury box. Each part of the trial is timed separately, and time from one part does not carry over to another part. So you'll need to reset your stopwatches to 0 at the beginning of each side's opening statement, at the beginning of each side's direct examination, at the beginning of each side's cross-examination, and at the beginning of each side's closing arguments. Remember, there is also an optional 3-minute break before closing arguments, and if that break is taken, you will also need to time that. Just as there are times when you must set your stopwatches to 0, there are also times when it's critical that you don't. This includes at the end of direct and cross-examinations, you'll need to resume timing for redirect and recross-examination. And at the end of the plaintiff's closing arguments, you'll need to resume timing for the plaintiff's rebuttal if they have any time remaining. Here's a few reminders for when you should both start and stop timing. Start timing when a witness or attorney starts to speak. Stop timing during objections. Do not stop timing for the introduction of an exhibit. Finally, here's a few reminders for what you should do after the trial is over. Sign and turn in your timekeeping sheets to the presiding judge. Remind the judges that you will be timing the debrief and then time it when the judges return from the recess. And then make sure you take all your belongings with you when you leave the courtroom. You're responsible for making sure you leave the courthouse with the same items that you arrived with. Again, welcome to the Idaho Mock Trial Competition. We're pleased to have you be part of our mock trial family and look forward to seeing you at your regional competitions. If you have any questions, have your coach contact me.